So the animation that we'll be creating is what you see right in front of you. I'm going to refresh it. Refresh. We have the header section animating. If we scroll down, we have this animating, scroll down, this animating, scroll down, this animating, scroll down, this looks like magic. It's not really magic, you'll get to know about it, but this is exactly the page that we'll be animating. So stay tuned and let's have a look at it. So the way that we create this animation is to know a few things right off the bat. First of all, Figma does not support scroll animations, as we all know, which is why particularly you're on this video, you're trying to see is there a way to achieve something very similar. Figma does not support scroll animations. So what we have to do is we need to create an animation that at the very least behaves like it's animating when the user is scrolling. Those sections are appearing when the user is scrolling as he's going through it. And obviously this is not going to be for clients. It's going to be, let's say, for your Dribbble shots, for any other presentational skills, or let's say when you're presenting to a client, so on and so forth. So right off the bat, what do you have to do and how do you have to achieve that effect? Well, the way that we'll be achieving that effect, and I'm going to obviously be doing all of that from scratch, is we're going to be animating these boxes when your mouse actually comes on those sections. So that's what we're going to be doing. So right off the bat, what do I have to do and what sections should I animate? Well, the first thing that I think we should do is we should have both these sections together. So I'm basically just going to grab this clients section and move this within the intro section, and let me just expand this. And then what we need to do is we need to create a component out of it. Components are going to allow us to have multiple animations inside of the element, which is exactly what we want. So after I've created a component, I'm going to duplicate this in place by pressing Command D. And then I'm going to basically cut the main component or the master component and place it outside. Now here we can decide what exactly we want to do with this particular component. So maybe we want to, let's say, move the header, maybe we want to move this on the left, move this on the right, and have this come from the bottom. And that's going to be fairly simple. We do that by saying that I want to create a property of a variant. This definitely is going to be the final variant, right? So this is going to be, let's just name it to state. This one is going to be the final variant because we don't want to mess with this one. And let's just duplicate it. Actually, I like to create an auto layout on the component, larger component itself, like the component wrapper, so that all of the variants inside can actually span a specific space when I just say duplicate them like this. And I want to have them right on the right. So here's the final one, and I can actually just say this is the final one, the second one, since it's basically a duplicate of this one, and this can be the start one. So now what do we have to do? I can say that in this start one, this header is not going to be visible. A few things that I also have to do is I have to clip content so that when these animations are happening, hopefully, well, I don't even think we need to clip the content. Clip content is usually done when you actually want the images to be clipped when they're coming from the outside, so on and so forth. But maybe I don't really want that. So I'm going to move this header to the top. Here it is. And if we want, we can also apply a white background here so we can see where everything is. So as you can see, the header is moved out. We have this thing. I'm going to say this is also going to be outside. This is also going to be on the outside. If we want, we can also keep this gray box where it is and then only just move the items if we want. But I mean, just to make it simpler, I'm going to move it outside. Now notice when I'm moving these things outside, I'm pressing Shift and space. If I don't press it, what's going to happen? Shift is going to help me to move them left and right or up and down without necessarily messing up the location easily. So if I just press Shift and move outside, then sometimes, as you can see, now this particular element is in this variant, which is something that I did not want it. So always press space when moving elements if you want to, if you're moving them outside of their container, but you still want to keep them inside of that container. So Shift and space, I'm going to press Shift and then press space while moving. So this is moving the element outside of the frame of the variant, but we still want to keep it inside hierarchically or in the layers panel, which is what we're doing here. So I think that's fine, and we're going to move the this particular section, which is the which are the logos. a bit at the bottom. And then what we need to do, if we don't like, if you like this animation, if you don't like it, we can also reduce the opacity. I personally feel like reducing the opacity also creates a really great effect. So I'm going to reduce all of the opacity here. So now if we just play it, let's just try to play it and see what that looks like. So this is going to be the initial one. I'm going to say that anytime a person comes on this screen, well, this is, let's say, the initial state. So we don't even have to say mouse enter. We're going to do that on all the other things. But since this is the initial one, we just want to say after a delay of, let's say, 1 second, I want you to smart animate this section, and we can define what that smart animation effect is going to look like. So let's just refresh the page now. It's looking like this, which I think is really fast. So let's just go ahead and actually tweak it a bit. I'm going to say I want this to be 1 second. I think this looks good. But now I also want to do a few other tweaks. I want to say maybe, so let's just go ahead and do it. What I want to say here is that this first section is going to come to this section, the second one, and in the second section, actually let me just go ahead and delete this section, and I'm going to just duplicate this one. I'm going to say in this second section, the header should be in the exact same place. So this header that we see, where is the header? This header should be in the exact same place, and this one, in this one. And the client spanner should also be in the same place. So obviously it's really hard for me to decide what that place is. Obviously I know since everything is aligned, it's in the right place, but if I did not know that, I can just delete this header from here, and I can delete the client spanner from here. I can copy this client spanner and I can paste it here. So as you can see, it's in its original position, which is in the final state. And then I'm going to copy this header and place it here. Now obviously since the header was in the intro folder, I'm going to keep it in the intro folder, and I'm not going to change it. So now if we try to animate it, I'm going to say I want a delay here. So after a delay of 1 second, I want to smart animate it and something like this. And then we're going to do the same thing here. Maybe now we have to change the speed a bit. I think it's going to be way slow. So if we refresh, we have the header and the footer coming in, then we have these things coming in. Maybe we don't want to delay on this other thing. So header footer comes in, then we have the cards coming in. I think this looks good. Now coming to the main point of this video that you're trying to look at, we have to do something very similar with this section. I'm going to create a component for this section. I am going to duplicate it. I'm going to cut this master component, and I'm going to place it here. Then what we're going to do is we are going to create a variant for this. So I'm going to say that I want another variant here. I want to make this whole larger component block an auto layout. We are going to have some spacing 50 and then 200 in the middle. It's going to be sideways, and then I'm going to duplicate it. So this is going to be our final one. This is going to be our start. And now what we're going to do is on the start, we're going to say this is basically going to come from the outside, reduce the opacity. This is also going to come from the outside, and I'm going to reduce the opacity. And then obviously I have to probably move this somewhere as well. Maybe I'm just going to reduce the opacity. I don't have to change this right now. So I'm going to reduce the opacity. And if we just do that one thing, with this is exactly where the magic happens. If we do that, we're going to say, okay, what should happen here? After a user mouse enters this particular section, we want it to animate to something like this. Now let's have a look at it. We have these things coming in. These things looks terrific. If we scroll down, we have this coming in. Isn't that magic? It's not really magic. Like, it's really simple. Obviously, we have our mouse here. And you need to keep your mouse in the frame itself, and that's usually where the mouse of even your clients are or whatever. But this is again not for a client. This is more for presentational purposes or for your Dribbble animations to have an effect of scrolling. So now if I scroll down, we have this coming in, and obviously you can go completely granular. You can decide where all the delays need to be for this particular component, but that initial trigger is going to be based on your mouse entering this section, and that's the magic. So now that's the value that you wanted to get out of it, out of this particular video. I'm going to be animating all the other sections. If you want to stick around, that would be great. If not, go ahead and start animating your stuff. Do subscribe, do hit the like icon, do let me know if you understand this, if it makes sense, or if there's anything that you would like more help on. So let's continue. One thing that I just noticed is the sign up text is wrong. So I have to probably correct that maybe later. So I'm not even going to worry about it. So now coming to this section, I'm again going to create a component, duplicate it, cut the main component, paste it here. Pretty similar flow as to what you guys already know. And then I'm going to create a variant here. And you can create a variant directly by going at the top here as well. I'm going to just press plus and it's going to create a variant. And then I can move things on the right, spacing, all of that fun stuff. And now we can decide, okay, so actually before creating the variant, let's just rename them. So this was a dummy page that one of my awesome designers made in for one of my channels like Dribbble and Behance. So obviously nothing is really well organized, which is something that I don't like. So I'm actually going to let him know that he should do that. But this is just for presentational purposes and just for those Dribbble screenshots. So we don't really focus too much on these minor details, but we should. Okay, so multiple payment, and then we have the income stats. Then we have www search or reach, sorry, reach. Then we have integrated or whatever. So these are the things that we have. And then we have this whole section. I think this is fine. Okay. One thing, as you know, I've already mentioned, this is something that I'm going to actually inform my designer as well. You never use rectangles for your designs. You always use frames for elements like these, because rectangles are just an additional component that happen to be there that don't really add a lot of value. So if I had to make this the same thing, I would give this a border radius, and I would just basically press I to duplicate it, to duplicate the color, and I'm just going to remove the rectangle because it is of no use. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move. First of all, I'm going to duplicate this. This is going to be our final one. Then we're going to move these things out. So I can say I want to move this one here. I want to move this one maybe here outside. This one should probably go here. And this one should go at the bottom. So I know they're going in a weird places, but I mean, let's just see what that effect looks like. Okay, so now I'm going to animate it again, pretty similar to what I mentioned earlier. We're going to say a mouse enter. It's going to be a smart animate things on a 100-second delay, on a 1,000-second delay. So we have this coming in, which looks great. Then we scroll down, we have this. Then we scroll even further down, we have these things coming in, which I think looks pretty good. Okay, so now that we have that, we can obviously go ahead and animate this section, component, duplicate it, have the original one. Actually, I'm just going to move this here, and let's just go ahead and actually create a variant out of it. So variant, move it on the right for the auto layout, 200 spacing, 50 on the side, and pretty simply just moving this on the right and moving this on the left. One other thing that I didn't do here on this particular one is, well, never mind, I think I did. And just reducing this in opacity. Okay, that's pretty much it. And since I moved them on the right, I can also clip content so I don't see it here. And then we're going to have the same effect here, mouse enter, and that's the effect that we wanted, mouse enter. And as you can see, we have this thing coming in. One thing that I don't like here, however, is the fact that this yellow bar, which is this is the yellow bar. I'm actually going to remove the opacity. Actually, I'm going to add another effect. I'm going to reduce this in width, and I'm going to reduce the opacity. So this is the highlight. I'm actually going to write it as highlight, and I probably have to do the same thing here. I'm going to change this to highlight. So the effects are preserved, which is really important. And I'm going to duplicate this again. And now I'm going to say that the highlight is going to be increased in opacity, and it should be something like this. So now that I did that, we have this thing coming in, and I'm gonna say that we're gonna do a delay of 0 seconds, and then this highlight is gonna come in maybe a bit faster. So let's see how this looks. And then we have it here, and then this that's too fast. I don't want it to be too fast. I want it to smart animate. And let's try some other effects, like maybe slow. I think this would be a bit better. So we have this. Yeah, I think that looks good. So you can have all of these awesome effects if you want, and that's completely up to your discretion. We're going to create this component, duplicate it again, cut it, paste it here, and we're going to do pretty much the same thing that I've been doing for all of the other sections. Auto layout, 50, 200 on the right, and nothing much to do here. I'm just gonna basically move this. Maybe we can move this element at the top and we can move this at the bottom. I think that's going to be interesting as well, though it may look completely weird because obviously things are going to be overlapping, but let's see. I mean, it's completely up to you. You can do whatever the hell you want. Okay, so now again the same thing. Mouse enter, animation should be ease in, and then that's it. Okay. Oh wow, is it? Sorry, 1 second. So refresh again, we have this thing coming in. Okay, so this, refresh again. I'm not sure why that's not working. You probably have to debug it now. Remove it again, and I'm going to place it again. So we have a mouse enter, 1 second, ease in. Okay, that's working. But why is it so freaking fast? I don't know why. I change it to 1 second, but somehow it actually disappears. Just gonna close it again. I feel like there's something broken with Figma because I don't really see any major thing that I'm doing wrong. Yeah, now it's much better. It was definitely something wrong with Figma. So now we can obviously just animate both these things. I'm gonna say this is gonna be our bottom section, and let's just, well, actually we can animate both these things separately as well. We can say this is a component, duplicate it again, you know the drill, cut it, paste it here, press the plus icon, and this is gonna be our final. Shift enter to select the overall element, 200, right, 50, and let's just go ahead and actually move this thing on the left. So as you can see, if I'm moving this element, it's actually coming onto the auto layout, which is something we obviously don't want. So I'm just going to go ahead and lock this auto layout for now. And then I'm going to move this on the right. Now, as you can see, if I'm moving this on the right, actually I have to move the whole mask group. So I'm going to move this on the right. Then I am going to reduce it in opacity. Then this is the other mask group. I'm going to move it on the left. I'm going to reduce the opacity. Actually rename this. So this is going to be mask group 1. This is going to be mask group 2, just so it doesn't messes up the animation. So this is the mask group 2, I think. Yes, this is 1. And then for this particular element, which is inside, let's just actually, this is going to be our content. Let's rename it to content here as well. Here, what we have to do in this particular content is, since this is an animation and we want to animate it, why don't we just remove this auto layout for now for animation purposes? So auto layout remove, and then for this content, actually let me just place the content above in both cases. Button start, I think this is fine. Here the frame should be at the top, this contact should be at the bottom, and this whole thing should actually be reduced in opacity. So now it's fine. We have the transition or the prototype link, and this looks good. So now if we scroll down, we have something like this, which obviously is not working for some reason. And the reason it's not working is because I think I've hidden it here as well, which is something that shouldn't have happened in the final stage. But where exactly? Okay, sorry. The content was above, which is why it was being hidden. So I have to move the content down, and I think this should be fine. Yep. But I don't really like the effect. Like, which effect is this? Ease in and out. Let's try ease this one. Again, something's wrong with Figma. So we have to close the prototype tab and open it again. Now it looks much better. And then for the footer, it's basically something very simple. I'm not even sure if I have to do it, but since I've done most of the things that were pretty simple, I'm gonna do this thing as well for my subscribers, paste it here, and let's just go ahead, convert it into an auto layout, right, 250. I just like to give that 50 because I like the white space at the edges. And then I can basically just say this whole thing that's inside. I'm going to create a frame around it. Similarly, enter, create a frame around it. This is going to be our content. This can also be the content. Well, actually, we don't need to maybe do that. I can say that this above element is actually going to come from the top. This bottom element is going to come from the bottom. And maybe we need to actually have this above element be a bit more at the top. Reduce in opacity, go here, link the auto layout, mouse enter, and everything is pretty. So we have this. And again, if you notice that when you're actually coming here, since you have the mouse at the middle, you don't even get to the footer. If you want to see the footer, you actually have to place your mouse here. That's a problem. If you want to do that, then there's an easy fix. Obviously, the fix is that this is the footer, right? I can just say that this footer section is actually just going to be really large. So we can make it like something like this large, and then we can move the element. So we first had to actually check the spacing at the bottom. So it's like 21 or something. So I'm going to make this like extremely large. So the tap area is larger, and then I'm going to move this somewhere here. So at 220 pixels, and then let's see what happens. So if we are actually at the bottom, we go somewhere here. Now, as you can see, it's coming a bit earlier, and if we want, we can actually move it above the join us section as well. So now if we're somewhere here, and if we're trying to see what happens, so as you can see, the footer comes in, and we can add a delay, we can do all of that stuff. So that was pretty much the video. I know it was a lot of basic stuff that I have to do. I don't really like doing a lot of basic stuff, but this was for especially my subscribers who were liking or choosing the option of animated sections on scroll in Figma. So let's just go ahead and actually have a look at the animation one more time. This is what the animation is going to look like, which looks pretty good. And then we have the footer coming in. So that's going to be pretty much it for this video. Do subscribe, do hit the bell icon, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.